Hello, so this is part two. Obviously I panicked a little bit. I still had a minute or so left. I did not say goodbye properly, but better be safe than sorry, because over 15 minutes YouTube won't take it. So as I was mentioning, yeah, I was trying to show the PDF. So obviously you can export everything in a PDF format. It gives you the ability to name the file and the location where to save it. You can export this to Excel. So same thing, you can export it into a more general CSV format, and you can also copy the information on the clipboard. Now it tells me that 31 rows were copied, but that's because I did not filter anything, so it's going to show all the records. If I go back and I just say this and I go copy, then again it only does whatever I have filtered, and it's the same thing for the PDF and the rest. So now it tells me that I got 4 rows copied on the clipboard. If I want, I can go to a notepad editor and paste it, and text editor and paste it, and that'll be there. That's pretty cool. One thing I want to show you, no matter how much space I need to get and I'm able to get and whatever, I'm still going to be at some point short. So over here in this area, this title is not correct. And obviously I'm not creating a product, I'm viewing products, so these icons are not correct. But basically what I'm going to have here is going to be the ability to show and hide columns on the grid. So I'm going to pack this grid with tons of information. Some columns are going to be hidden and visible, and you can manipulate this through this this little interface. So, and it's going to be based also on users preference and also on users permission. Well, for you guys it's not that important, but let's say if this was like a real inventory stuff, you would have the cost price of a product, and you don't want some employees to view that cost price, so you would make that column hidden completely. So basically you would be able to have a lot of information showing and hidden based on the user's preference. So essentially this screen can give you all the information that you need. So enough about that. Let me just go to the inventory module. Let me quickly create a product. I know you guys are interested in the CRM. I promise I will get to it immediately. This is where you would enter your barcode. So you would say, I don't know, 333333, whatever. That's the barcode. You can think of the label as a very short description. This is what's going to appear on your receipt, on your tags for your shelf locations. So I don't know. I would say Coca-Cola can. You'd be very tempted here to put 350 millimeters, but you don't. I'll show you later. The long description is where you put like the bigger, as much stuff as you want. So you can even do that here. Shelf life. I know you guys are getting a lot of expiry products already, but this is going to be another parameter that you can use. Because there's expiry and then there's expiry. So let's say you receive something that's already passed, but you don't want to overdo it, like you don't want it to be 2 years old, for example. So you would say this is good for another 180 days, and after that we're going to have to look at them. So in a dashboard, in the inventory dashboard, or in the product submodule dashboard, you will get reminders. You will get a list of these products are way past their shelf life, and you may want to have want to look at them. And then you have inventory, item type. It's either inventory, services, non-inventory. I don't want to get into so much details right now. One thing I do want to talk about is the unit of measure. Every product obviously needs to have a unit of measure. The inventory value is going to be based on this unit of measure. For example, if I say I have 344, well, 344 what? Well, it's going to be that unit of measure. It's going to be cans for this item, for example. So this is the default unit of measure for that item. But you should not be restricted to dealing with only one unit of measure per item. Sometimes you receive them by the case or by the carton or whatever, and you distribute them by individual can, for example. So this gives you the ability to deal with that. This is a wizard. I don't know if you can see step 1, step 2, step 3. So the first step is obviously to define the default unit of measure, the measure on which the inventory value is going to be based on. Then you click next, and you now have the ability to choose more unit of measures. You can choose as many as you want, obviously, but let's not go crazy. Like, you don't need more than, technically you can get away with only one, then 2 or 3 is more than enough. So for this example, let's just say, I don't know, carton and bag, whatever. Just an example. So now the system said, okay, your initial unit of measure, your default one was can, and then you added carton and bag. And it gives you a matrix, and you have to enter values now. Obviously, can to can, the conversion is always 1. Carton to carton and bag to bag, it's always 1. But the system asks you how many cans are going to be in a carton. So, for example, you can say 24. And then it tells you how many cans are going to be in a bag. So, for example, you can say 96. And then it tells you how many cartons are going to be in a bag. So, obviously, based on what I've done so far, I would say 4. So you have 24 bottles per carton, you got 4 cartons per bag, and that means you have 96 per bag. And the system also needs you to give it this information, how many cartons per can. Well, it's 1 divided by 24, so it's going to be 0.0 whatever. And then the same thing for this. Let me just enter some dummy values. Whatever, doesn't make sense, it's not correct. I'm going to have a button here that's going to automatically calculate these values. If you feed the system the top triangle, then the system should be able to calculate for you the bottom triangle. So in any case, you just say finish, and now you can save the product. Let me go back to general. So it's 3333, can save, and it takes you to the big grid. Let me just say show 50. If you have more than what space you have, obviously it gives you a scroll bar, and this is what's been created over here. That's the user who created it. My default unit of measure is a can. It was in category 1. I did not change it, so it defaulted to that. And basically, that's what I want to talk about. Let's go finally to the CRM contacts module. Obviously, I haven't done much on it programming-wise, but I have thought about it, and I made a mistake, or I am in a... This link is broken, so let me just go back to create a product, and I think that link is going to work. So it gives you this is the main module, the main contacts module, and obviously over here you have all the sub modules that are associated with it. You have leads, you have prospects. These are initial filters. This is done so that you don't cram up the database tables with information that may end up being nothing, like it's leads, and we don't know even if that person exists or if it's the right phone number. So essentially, these are kept separate, and ultimately these leads and these prospects, they end up being converted into one of 3 things: either customer, either customer beneficiary, either supplier donor, we'll forget about that for now, or either an employee or a volunteer. So you can start the process with leads and move on to prospect and go here, or directly, let's say if it's somebody who walks in and it becomes immediately a customer and beneficiary, you can immediately start the process from there and enter it in the database. So going back to what the subject at hand, finally 20 minutes later, what we talked about. We're going to have customers, beneficiaries that are going to be entered in the system by intake. So it's just contacts. You just enter them in the database. You're going to put as much information in their file, all the details, personal phone numbers, notes, comments, birthdays, what have you. And you will then have the social worker create cases. You can think of cases as a container where you're going to group beneficiaries based on common criteria. It could be geographical, it could be maybe they all have similar needs, so you're going to want to assign to them a volunteer that has that set of skills for them. So this is left to the discretion of the caseworker, but basically it's a way to group beneficiaries and you put them into a case, which can also be thought of as a case load. So the case load itself is going to have some general information, and you have inside of it, you have customers and beneficiaries. As you receive volunteers that are sent to you from other organizations, you would also enter them in the system as they're going to be marked as volunteers and stuff like that. You would then assign cases to volunteers. I think this is a much better way of doing it, or a nice way of doing it. I don't know why I say better than what, but it's a nice way of doing it. It gives you more flexibility. For example, if the volunteer is no longer available, then you simply take that caseload and you would assign it to another volunteer, as opposed to having beneficiaries have a direct relationship with volunteers and being assigned a specific volunteer. Then if that volunteer is no longer available, then you have to go through all the beneficiaries and change the volunteers to them. So it's much better. It's an in-between layer where you assign beneficiaries to cases and you assign cases to volunteers. Obviously, you can, on the case, you can take out one beneficiary and put in another, and when the volunteer is going to log in, then he's going to see the changes are going to be reflected in what he sees. What he sees, the new beneficiary is going to be listed for him for that week, for that task. So basically, that's the way I'm thinking of doing it, and I think it's pretty good. Cases are like, if you look at like CRMs, you can think of cases as sales opportunities. It's very similar stuff. And obviously you have notes where this is like direct access to notes, tasks, phone calls, emails. Obviously when you go to a particular beneficiary or particular volunteer, then you have the ability to create a note, and you have the ability to make a phone call. You have all these abilities, but this is like a task-centric approach where you start saying, I want to do that task, and then you say, okay, which employee and which this, or you can go to the employee and then you can say, okay, from that employee, now I'm going to make a phone call. So it's a mirror access to it, but you have access to both of them. So that's basically it. Not as powerful as I thought. I wanted to say more things, but I'm drawing a blank and I'm afraid I may be over my limit. So I'm going to say goodbye properly. That's it for now, and I will keep you up to date. Thank you.